It's interesting because, his show, it's kind of a sexy show, which is different for country. And is that a change in country music these days, too, that they'll let, kind of guys come out there and have a jazzy show?
Well, I just think a lot of it is when you look at what I do and when you look at the cover of my book, you may think one thing, but when you listen to the words of my songs and when you find out what's really inside my heart and my head, I think you'll find that there's something much more there than just a sexy show.
Oh yeah, I've been meaning to tell you about this, man. I recently found it on YouTube by accident, but there is a HD video from Lollapalooza 2021, Limp Bizkit live.
Yeah, he's got
the dad look.
He's got the dad look. He's got the pink sunglasses and the mullet. No, not the. It's not. I'm looking ahead to Billy Ray. He's got the long hair. Marcus Parks actually said on Twitter, he looks like all the Beastie Boys characters from the Sabotage video molded into one.
He comes out and he's like, I thought he was fun in that performance. It's like he's self-aware at this point.
Yeah.
And he does a weird dance and he keeps saying like, sending you dad energy. Stuff like that.
Yeah, dude, he's morphed into something. I'm gonna just go ahead and posit a theory. I think he listened to our podcast. We did get one download on that episode from Jacksonville, Florida, and I have to just wonder if anyone in Limp Bizkit passed that on to him, and he realized, I am kind of weird. But that is part of my appeal. They don't actually just legitimately like my rapping ability.
So there you go,
my
man.
Songwriting.
Fred's final form is thanks to us.
He is, yes.
And the whole thing, the performance, they're all pretty tight. And it's fun to watch a new generation out there jamming to Limp Bizkit for totally different reasons than us. They all like it ironically, which is great.
No, because it gets to the point where the rest of the music world starts to look so ridiculous. I don't listen to most new rock out there, but even Limp Bizkit is better than most of it.
Oh, dude, big time. And there's two big things I guess I noticed. The first one was John Otto was not with them. He was the only one that didn't return.
That's a shame because he's one of the best parts of the band.
Yeah, they had some baby up there, some really young kid. I don't know who he was. Oh, and shout out to Wes Borland's thighs, by the way. He's wearing these socks. He's gained a lot of weight. He's not a string bean anymore.
Yeah.
And he's wearing these thigh-high socks that he's got a thigh muffin top. I've never seen anything quite like it. It's distracting.
So he's doing his squats is what you're saying.
Yes.
Nice.
And then the other thing was Fred does at one point call out Woodstock 99. And he's like, this isn't Woodstock 99, man.
Oh.
Fuck that shit. And he kind of I think it's as close as you'll get to an apology. Or a reckoning. Yeah. He's like, we're going to get it out in a different way. And
So I did watch that documentary.
It was good.
It's very good. And they come to more or less a similar conclusion that we did. Like Limp Bizkit did act irresponsibly, but to pin all of the blame on them is to ignore the 99 different systemic issues that festival had.
Even just among the bands, they weren't the worst one. Red Hot Chili Peppers playing Fire after being asked specifically.
They should have known better. They could see the flames on the rise. Oh, that looks like Apocalypse Now.
I'm flying out of here right after this anyway. So
it's come on, man.
The last thing I want to call out that was really fun to see was they had a sign language interpreter out there, and when he's doing he's interpreting hot dog. He's getting into it. It was really fun to watch him. He's up there fucked up world.
So I don't know the sign for fuck, but I presume you do now.
There's 3 or 4. I guess it's depending on context.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just, you just gotta check it out. 2021 Limp Bizkit Live Lollapalooza. Easy to find. They put it out on purpose.
Nice. All right, check it out. And if you're going to a large concert, please make sure you're vaccinated.
Yeah, God.
We talked off air about some shit we had to deal with that, but like, just, I won't get into it, but like, get the fucking shot, people. I'm so sick of this shit.
Yep, I don't care about your personal beliefs.
Yeah.
You're into other vaccines? This one is not any different. Just go get it.
You've already had a bunch put into your body before you could talk. And guess what? You're fine, apart from being a moron for not getting vaccinated. But welcome to Polishing Turds with Nick and Cal. How about that?
There you go.
My name is Nick.
I'm Cal.
And this, guess what, is the show where we take a deep dive into the wonderful world of bad music. How are we doing, Cal?
I'm doing okay. I'm going to warn you guys ahead of time. My kid gave me RSV last week, which is a
Ouch.
respiratory virus. My voice sounds like shit. I'm going to do my best today.
Yeah.
We're going to soldier through.
You are a trooper. I appreciate you, Cal. And before we get going, I do have one thing I wanted to share with you, and maybe this will lift your spirits a little bit and be the thing that just carries you into happy land. If you or anybody else is around on September 10th and happens to be anywhere near the town of Edgerton, Wisconsin, that weekend they are having a festival that is known as Chili Mania, where, you know, a bunch of people judge different chilies, I presume. Like, I haven't looked super into that, but it's a chili contest. It's not super complicated, but guess who is headlining Chili Mania on September 10th, 2021 at around 10 p.m. Billy Ray Cyrus. We get to see this motherfucker.
I feel like obligated to go.
I wasn't like even gonna ask. I know that like you've got kids and shit, but I just
Their dad lives in I'm their stepdad. Their dad lives in Edgerton.
Oh no shit.
I have an excuse to go.
Yeah, that's about 30 minutes away from where we live. And I've already decided that I'm going, and I'm pretty sure my girlfriend is going too. So,
dude, I'm down. I like chili too. So even if
Nice.
Billy Ray sucks ass, I get to eat a bunch of chili.
So if you guys happen to be in or near southern Wisconsin on September 10th, look up Chili Mania. You might see us there.
Oh, one more thing before we get started. We have to do some quick corrections.
Yes, we do, because we're responsible journalists. We don't want AP like taking our credibility away.
The first one I have to do because I received a strong verbal reprimand for my misinformation. So in the previous episode, I said that my wife, when she was growing up, thought Billy Ray was the sexiest man. That is not true, I've been told.
Oh.
It was her mom thought that. And she was very upset that, A, I would think that she thought that, and B, that I put her in that age bracket. So.
Oh no. Yeah, it's probably the latter more than the former.
No, she corrected me and told me it was the lead singer of Whitesnake. That was the one.
Okay. All right. I mean, that track. I guess that tracks though.
Once she said it, I was like, all right, fine.
I do think that like Billy Ray was targeting those like country cougar moms of that era. I think that makes more sense than your wife as a grade school like person like having a thing for Billy Ray. But
now the other one is a much more serious note. Well, this is just only a nerd would have noticed this. I mentioned that, an Achy Breaky Heart hit number 1.
Yes.
And I was saying that it beat a Megadeth album for number 1. That was half true.
Yes.
The album Achy Breaky Heart is on, Some Gave All, was number 1. And it beat Megadeth's album that Symphony for Destruction was on.
Yes.
Called Countdown to Extinction.
So the album was Countdown to Extinction, not Symphony of Destruction, which is the main track on that album.
So for the one person I pissed off, we went back and fixed it. I did have the fact right. I was surprised I even remembered that tidbit, but...
Wouldn't you like to hear Billy Ray cover Megadeth at some point? Like, what do you mean I don't believe in God? talk to him every day. And with him, it's like literally true because he thinks he talks to God.
That's true, yeah. And then someone in his band could butcher the solo.
And I also had one correction that I wanted to share. So we did mention the story of the judge with no arms in from Billy Ray's memoir. Turns out that actually is a real guy. I implied that he might be fake. He's not. His name was Judge James Lyon, and he was born without arms, and he actually was born with only one leg too. So it's even there's even more adversity there. And he was a very respected judge. He practiced for a long time. He was also on the board of 1,000 different charities, and he was one of those guys that just they should make movies out of. And when you read about it, it makes me feel like an absolute piece of shit that I'm 33 and this podcast is basically the only thing I've ever done. So,
and we sat on ripped on this poor man.
And the other reason I felt bad and wanted to say something was because he passed away a couple months ago. He died in April, which is within the lifespan of this show. So condolences to the family of James Lyon. He had I'm sure he was a massive badass.
Yep.
And thank you for not throwing a Billy Ray in jail.
Yes.
Because then we get to make fun of him. All right, so with all that shit out of the way, welcome to part 2 of our 6-part series on the Cyrus dynasty. Now, when we last left off, Billy Ray was at the height of his fame. The man and his mullet were barnstorming the nation, infecting millions of Americans with the Cyrus virus. But for every screaming fan, there were just as many haters who dismissed him as a gimmicky one-hit wonder. It was up to Billy Ray to prove them wrong. And did he, Calvin?
As far as I know, no.
Okay, spoiler alert.
But I'm here. I'm here to learn from you, Nick.
All right, so I want to begin today by setting the scene at the 1993 Grammys. So Billy Ray was nominated for 5 awards and had also been invited to perform. Now remember, just 8 months earlier, this guy was playing hotel bars in the middle of Kentucky. Now he was sitting next to the likes of Elton John, Tina Turner, and Michael Jackson. Now, Cal, we watched the video of this performance of Achy Breaky Heart at the Grammys before we started recording today. What are your impressions from what we saw?
It is crazy surreal to see a song of the caliber of Achy Breaky Heart played in a setting like this.
this very decked out, grandiose, prestigious stage where the likes of Whitney Houston sing,
yeah,
I Will Always Love You.
Well, and the song is so hokey even with all the studio help and the backing tracks and everything, it's hokey. When it's just 5 men playing it and Billy Ray dancing around,
yeah,
it's just got this bizarre feeling of I don't even know what to compare it to. Amateur night at a karaoke bar, and then I don't know, man. I just feel like any old lady that really loved that song when it came on the radio or loved dancing to it at weddings.
Yeah.
I feel like they probably all had a collective moment of clarity watching this performance of this is what I thought was cool,
Yeah, maybe this was the turning point, So, and the other thing about this performance is he's wearing a shirt. Did you see what his shirt said?
Yeah, John 3:16.
Yeah, so he said he did that to thank God for blessing him with all of this success. And remember, this is a running theme in Billy Ray's music and career, is that he genuinely is a very religious guy who believes that his career is somehow tied in with whatever destiny God gave him.
It sure as hell wasn't my talent.
Right. So, like we said, he was nominated for 5 awards. The biggest ones were Record of the Year and Song of the Year, both of which he lost to Eric Clapton, who was there for the song Tears in Heaven. So obviously that song is not going to beat Achy Breaky Heart, or not going to lose to Achy Breaky Heart.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's stiff competition.
I kind of, I know this is kind of dickish, but I kind of want to just take Rick's portal gun and peer into the alternate universe where Achy Breaky Heart beat Tears in Heaven, and the camera had to pan to Eric's face when that was announced. It's and then Billy Ray walks up to the podium, is like, thank you, Eric, I'm sorry I had to beat you. You really are a wonderful artist and inspiration and all that. And I'll tell you what, hearing about your son dying, that's what gives me an achy breaky heart. So I know I'm terrible. So yeah, so he lost those two, and he lost the other three, which were best new artist, best country vocal performance, and best country song. But like the thing is, like, he knew that he wasn't gonna be a big winner that night.
No,
Like,
yeah. You hear a song like Cheers in Heaven, then you listen to your own song, Achy Breaky Heart. Yeah, you have to know.
yeah. So like for him, it was just like an honor to be there, and I think he took it that way. But then on the way home, he saw a headline from the Los Angeles Times. It read, "Cyrus Big Loser."
Oh.
And I gotta say, that's kind of mean. That's like,
Yeah, that's fucking harsh.
that's more tweet than headline.
Yeah, that's brutal.
So this is just kind of the beginning of Billy Ray getting picked on and piled on by the media. All right, so for the rest of this episode, we're going to cover Billy Ray's career between 1993 and roughly the mid-2000s. And this is a pretty eventful period for Billy Ray, so I've divided it into 4 different eras. 1 is the holding on era, 2 is the actually good era, 3rd is the punching the clock era, and then finally we have the Christian era.
Oh boy.
Yep.
And as you guys know, that's our favorite territory.
We love talking about Christian music. It fills our soul with joy. We cannot wait to hear Billy Ray reveling in the spirit of God's grace.
Especially when you combine Christian with country music. My 2 favorite genres combined into one.
So stick around if you want to hear how that went. All right, as you might have guessed, this is one wild ride. So let's saddle up and hit the trail. So during the Holding On era, Billy Ray genuinely attempted to repeat the success of his debut album Some Gave All, which, if you remember, went platinum 9 times. Now, surprise, surprise, none of his subsequent albums matched those sales. But at least he didn't completely fall off the map like Vanilla Ice did. In the summer of 1993, Billy Ray released a follow-up album called It Won't Be the Last.
Well, he was right.
I mean, it's like, isn't that a little bit on the nose? Like,
Yes,
it's just,
big time.
It's like, you might as well just called it like, I'm not a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. I also have achy breaky lungs, achy breaky intestines. I can sing about a lot of shit.
Got achy breaky kidneys. Now, it's important to remember that in this specific time period, Billy Ray basically still had a chance to become a lasting star. Newspapers were still comparing him to Elvis, and at least guarding for the possibility that they might have to take him seriously. To give you an idea of what I mean, consider this excerpt from a Rolling Stone review of It Won't Be the Last. It should come as no surprise that the new Elvis arrives sans pompadour or leisure suit. And he goes on to embellish the comparison. It's worth recalling that before Elvis was officially canonized, his appeal was almost exclusively to women. Jealous boyfriends, aficionados of harder-edged rockabilly, and most critics had plenty of bad things to say about Elvis before he was turned into an icon. And, Cal, I just find this quote fascinating on so many levels, because not only are like they kind of like setting the groundwork for him potentially being the next Elvis, but also just kind of like reminding people that like Elvis wasn't always Elvis, you know? Like there was a time when like he was kind of the new kid in town and people hated on him, or at least the snobs of the musical world hated on him.
Right, kind of like we alluded to a little bit. Yeah, Elvis is among music people, he's not the guy. He's not that good. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're just kind of waiting around to see if the Cyrus virus is a 24-hour flu or like full-blown influenza.
Yeah. Like that whole review, it just kind of they give it 3 stars, and it just kind of sounds like they're hedging their bets. They'll be like, okay, this isn't very good, but like, oh, there's some improvements, and like, oh, I can see why he's so popular among women, you know?
I guess where I'm struggling with adding any insightful analysis is I'm one of those people that, as we talked about, Elvis never became Elvis.
No, well, me neither.
So it's hard to sit there and even really understand what he's talking about.
I think that's true of a lot of artists, is that before they become like just like the gods that they are today or tomorrow or 5 years ago, like there's a different tone that exists when they first turn up. And the types of people that are like kind of like snobby and down on one thing today may recognize 20 years from now that particular thing was super influential. Or the reverse, it's like it's not the impressions that we have of certain artists, whether it's, the Beatles or Queen or the Sex Pistols or AC/DC, these sentiments morph over time, and different groups of people will latch on to different opinions about them.
That's true. I know, like, if you go back and look at like David Bowie's first albums are not particularly well reviewed.
No.
And he just kept improving and became a superstar.
Yeah. Now he's a like an undisputed god, especially after he died.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that, like, in this particular period for Billy Ray, the one-hit wonder cement hadn't quite set yet, right? So really, all he needed was just one more big single to shake himself loose. And with that in mind, I want to play for you the first single from It Won't Be the Last. This is a song called In the Heart of a Woman.
She always knew just how to give the best of love to me. I thought I knew a thing or two about the ways of love, but it was soon to become so clear I didn't know enough. One day I found a note beside the ring she'd left behind. It said, here is all you need to know for better love next time. Say your love is strong and true. Let her know all she means to you. Show her she's a special one who shines in your life like the rising sun. Give her love some room to grow. Treat her tender and you will know the secret to the treasures of a heaven in the heart of a woman.
All right.
I wonder which of his many women that song was about. He's talking about a treat her right and tender and you'll have a friend forever. It's like, dude, you're an adulterer.
Yeah, like, was it the one that you like got drunk and married like as a joke? So yeah, there's something about that song. Like, it's less country and more like adult contemporary.
I would say it's barely country. If he didn't have that southern twangy vocal,
yeah.
I don't think you could call it country.
There's a slide guitar in it. That's part of the only thing I like about that song is that slide guitar line. Like, but other than that, like, that could be like a fucking Matchbox 20 song.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
any song on VH1 between like 1999 and 2003. Like, I don't know what adult contemporary technically means, but I feel like music like that is what
Yes.
what adult contemporary is. All right, but at the very least, that song is a departure from Achy Breaky Heart. But don't worry, because there are other songs where Billy Ray's kind of testosterone infused big bar band bravado rear its ugly head once more. And I want to play you another song. This one is called Ain't Your Dog No More.
Sleeping in the rain, those sparkies heading
All right. I can I can see the Elvis influence. I'll at least say that.
Right? That's
but that's no.
I feel like I've listened to all of his albums at this point. I feel like that is the song where we didn't coin a name for it, but the Billy Ray like yelp or like
Like you said, it's the Trey Parker fake country voice.
Yeah, right. Like that's the song where that reaches its peak. And like he gradually learns to wean himself off of it, but like come on, just take a singing lesson, dude. Like you don't have to be like that.
I also, this is the song where you can start to see the descent into madness that causes modern country.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least this song has rock and country instruments and not just like a stupid snap clap beat that like a lot of modern country has. Like it's just so much of modern country is way more horrible than this. But yeah, like Billy Ray definitely follows that trajectory from at least like, on that Where Am I Gonna Live song, that's at least kind of traditional country.
Right. So see, Billy Ray, we said something nice. You're not as bad as how bad it's going to get.
Yeah. So I don't have much to say on this album overall. It's mediocre. It's not awful. It's maybe a mild step up from Some Gave All, but obviously like it wasn't going to be a gigantic success because neither of those songs like really have any like crossover appeal, don't you think, Cal?
No, yeah, they're a lot like the more fillery tracks on the first one.
Yes.
He doesn't have that one single meme song that's going to take off.
No, not at all. And so predictably, this album, didn't sell 9 million copies. It entered the country charts at number 1. It entered the overall charts at number 2. So it started off strong, and it did go platinum. It sold 1 million copies, but like just compared to what Some Gave All did, like this was a disappointment. And it's just, like he wasn't going to come back from that.
No, the record company's got to know he's not Michael Jackson. He's not doing this again.
So one interesting thing I noted about this album was about the cover. So let's actually Google the album cover real quick. All right, so we're looking at the album cover right now, and believe it or not, there was what Billy Ray calls a heated argument over this album cover. So here you have Billy Ray Cyrus. How would you describe him in this album cover?
He's too cool to look at the camera.
Yeah, you can't really see him, right?
Yeah, and he's got, it's that classic, what's now a classic country/Christian album look. Actually, a lot of bands did this where, they stare away somewhere. Like,
yeah, it's like he's in profile.
He's thinking hard about something.
It's dusk. You can barely see him. It's kind of shadowy. But why did this cause controversy? Well, the record company wanted the album cover to have a clear image of Billy Ray Cyrus's face. And Billy Ray was very adamant that his face not be on the album cover. Because Billy Ray, from his perspective, was sick of seeing his mug everywhere. And he wanted people to focus on the music, not his image. But the
music is not good enough to back that, Billy.
Yeah, and I think the record company kind of knew that, and they kind of knew why he was selling so many records. And so they wanted his face on the album cover. And they got into a bitter fight over this. But I guess at that point, Billy Ray still had enough clout that he could get his way. So what you see in that album cover is Billy Ray like making an artistic decision to not have his face clearly in view.
I'm out spreading the word of God. You can't focus on my face.
Now, the next album was 1994's Storm in the Heartland. And actually, I want to go back to Google, Cal, because I want you to look at this album cover and see how it contrasts. That one, yeah.
Okay, so he didn't win the fight for long.
Yeah, no. We're back to seeing Billy Ray like close up.
God, that face he makes pisses me off. I know it's just his face, but like it's annoying.
It's got some very like high school yearbook vibes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess he lost this battle. And, music wise, like this album is basically the same story as It Won't Be the Last. Most of the songs are just kind of this middle of the road country rock. And most of the tracks are just kind of, these hokey love songs that clearly I think are being aimed at Billy Ray's female bass, really female cougar mom bass at this point. But I will give him one thing. He does kind of attempt to broaden his lyrical palette a little bit on this album. Like, there's one song where he talks about child abuse. There's the title track on this album is about the struggle of American farmers, and it's very kind of self-serious and not very good, but at least he's trying to be interesting. But there's one song that I want to play for you from this album, and I just have to do it because it's so goddamn goofy. This song is called Redneck Heaven.
Take me to redneck heaven when I'm dead and gone, where my southern roots are buried, Van Zandt still lives on, with some smoky blue room standing, with Jesus on the wall. Take me to
Now we're talking, man. What the fuck?
Cal, do you think when we die, if we are good, if we repent from all the things we've said on this show, do you think we'll go to middle class heaven?
Middle class white heaven.
I didn't realize that every social class and ethnic group had its own heaven.
Dude, those lyrics are absolutely ridiculous. They've got 7-Elevens in Billy Ray's heaven.
Yeah.
And he's all like, Mother Mary on the hood of my truck, so I remember to count my blessings. Billy, you're already in heaven, dog. You don't have to do that shit anymore.
Right? You can have your streets of gold. Sawdust will do just fine.
Yeah. Why are the streets paved with sawdust in heaven?
Because I don't need that fancy gold.
Well, what was the point? Oh, man, I got to read you one YouTube comment on here.
Yeah.
So Linda Brown says, I can listen you all day. Your music gives me chills. Just love it. And then, unrelated, a man named BJ Gallagher says, thanks. It's just like, Billy Ray, you made some amazing songs.
Thanks. Dude, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. Like, either BJ Galagos has had a schizophrenic episode and thinks he's Billy Ray Cyrus,
or he's just a genius troll. You're welcome.
I love that. Thanks. Jesus Christ. So, redneck pandering notwithstanding, Storm in the Heartland did even worse than I can't fucking. Thanks. That's so fucking weird. Storm in the Heartland did even worse than It Won't Be the Last, selling just 500,000 copies and getting minimal radio play. In his book, Billy Ray calls it, quote, one of the great tragedies of my career.
I would have guessed getting, his heroes making fun of him in the last episode would have been a little worse, but...
No, I guess, he was proud of this. I'm not really sure why, but He feels that like the country radio stations did him a disservice by not playing the songs more.
And I feel a little bad because it's got to be similar to Vanilla Ice, where like you just hit this insane peak, and now you kind of just have this feeling of, well, that was fun.
Yeah, it's just like it's so hard to catch back up. Like, how do you find another song that's as hokey as Achy Breaky Heart? And do you even want to? I'm sure he hates that song at this point.
Right. It sounds like he, unlike Vanilla Ice, wanted to be a serious artist.
He did. He does want to be taken seriously. So at this point, Billy Ray is no longer the darling of the country music industry. So, around this time in 1994, he basically decides to slow his roll and focus less on touring and more on his family, which has grown from his two older stepchildren plus Miley, and then their Miley's younger brother, Brazen.
Brazen?
Brazen, like Braison. But he says in the book that he named him that after his tendency to be brazen.
So, I thought he made like a raisin out of a blueberry, and he Brazen. I made a new fruit, braisins.
Billy Ray's Braisins. Sweeten up your achy breaky heart. I kind of like that. I wish that.
Yeah,
that
which says the real story.
Brazen.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I just heard the name. I was like, what?
Well, they have craisins. Why can't they have braisins? Why doesn't anybody want to eat dried blueberries? Like, why?
Blueberries already are. They're the best berry for you because they taste the worst of all the berries.
I know. I like them more than raspberries. Maybe I'm weird.
I think you're weird.
Am I a freak?
I think so.
Okay. Well, at least I'm getting antioxidants. So basically, Billy Ray is like living out on this farm in Tennessee, right? So he can do all the things that he grew up doing. He can go hunting, fishing, hiking. He drives ATVs around. At one point, he buys a big old John Deere tractor and starts driving that around just 'cause.
Who needs redneck heaven? I already live there.
He created his own redneck heaven. When you die, you go to Billy Ray's estate in Nashville.
He hands you a big fat joint and says, let's go fishing.
So maybe it was in this relaxed environment that Billy Ray could start to kind of move away from all this kind of commercial pandering and start making music that he actually liked. Whatever the case, his next effort turned out to be the best album of his career. So here begins what I like to call the actually good era of Billy Ray's career. In 1995, Billy Ray Cyrus began a venture that he and his partners called, quote, Project MDSSE. Now, Cal, we're going to play a little game. I want to have you try and guess what MDSSE stands for.
Holy shit. Okay. I gotta get in the head of a Billy Ray. Project. My dad is a Super Saiyan Ewok. I don't know.
Nice guess. It stands for Most Disrespected Singer-Songwriter Since Elvis.
He needs an extra S then.
Yeah, I know. He kind of fucked up the acronym. Or at least his publisher did. But isn't that weird?
I can think of quite a few more, but okay.
So it's so weird that not only does he clearly have an axe to grind at this point, but also he's kind of still taking the I want to be the next Elvis thing seriously. So I don't know what to make of that.
I guess I'm buckling up for yet another Fuck the Critics album.
Yeah, so this kind of is his Fuck the Critics album, but you know how we talked about in Five Finger, that what they should do is say fuck the critics by doing something actually good. That's kind of what Billy Ray does for this one. So basically, he decides to ditch all these fancy studios that they have in Nashville, and he records this album in a home studio that his friend had built into a log cabin out in the woods. The resulting record was called Trail of Tears, and has a far more rootsy, bluegrass-inspired sound than anything Billy Ray had done to date. Let's take a listen to the title track.
many years. Too many times you walked away and was made to feel ashamed. And though you only tried to give, you were often blamed.
All right, I'm with you. I did not hate that.
No, it's definitely different from the previous couple of songs we were playing, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By a lot.
Yeah. So that one, like, they've got a little mandolin in there. Like, they've got, like, what the country that I like sounds like that.
Yeah, they have musical parts. Like, there's stuff happening here.
Yeah, and it's like it's all acoustic. It's got that feeling of like a couple of people like playing some acoustic stringed instruments over a fire, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the song's lyrics, like, for once, are actually kind of meaningful. He's talking about the Native American genocide, which like today it's like kind of cliche to like talk about it in those terms. But if this is the mid 90s and you're talking to a country audience, which is obviously largely conservative white males, like, this is a bit of a risk.
They're the cowboys in Cowboys vs. Indians.
Yeah, and like his whole generation had grown up watching John Wayne movies and just assuming that John Wayne is the hero. And thank God he beat back that red man. And so I give, maybe there's people could talk about cultural appropriation or whatever because he's wearing like a Native American style suit.
Again, I think standards have changed. Back then, I don't think anyone would have accused him of that.
No,
we weren't thinking as progressively about it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely progressive for his time. And I gotta say, like, I genuinely like this album, and I was surprised that there would be any album in the Billy Ray Cyrus catalog that I would like genuinely appreciate and like.
It kind of reminds me of the Vanilla Ray gangster rap album. I actually liked that one, and I remember thinking, like, well, this is weird.
Well, this one, like, I think I like even more than that. Like, because there are some genuinely well-written, well-produced songs, and and he writes more of them than on most of his albums. There's 7 out of the 11 songs were either written or co-written by Billy Ray. And he starts to finally kind of dial down the kind of honky tonk shit. And like, I'm not saying that this is like a masterpiece or anything, but if I was at like a used record store and I saw this album on the stands,
Billy Ray's 5th album, is it? Yeah.
For if I saw this album for like $6 or less, and I happened to be in a pretty good mood that day, I might buy it. That is the highest compliment I can give this album, and that's probably the highest compliment I've ever given any album on this show. So before we move on, I want to play another one of my favorite songs from this record. It's called Truth Is I Lied.
Scratched too hard on the door, then I showed myself outside. Lashed my soul across this 20-horse and rode off in the night. Guess you noticed I'm gone and the low morning sun's casting shadows with questions inside. So the truth in this letter at dawn will shed a new light. Truth is, I lied when I said I'd always be a whipping pit. I lied when I said I shouldn't mind the hurt, I guess. When I pleaded and stated I needed you just to survive. Truth is, last night when you
knowing what I know about Billy Ray, that song is cooler now. Because you can read into the lyrics, and know what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, like at this point he's had his share of like ups and downs with women, and like it really, he always talks about how he pours his heart and soul into his songs and lyrics. I think on that album he actually did, and like I like everything about that, man. I like the production, the arrangement, the melody. The lyrics are shockingly good for a song that he wrote. Like it's really, like, I don't know, like this is the apex of his career. He does some good stuff later on, but it's so few and far between that something like this truly stands out. So Trail of Tears was released in 1996 to widespread critical acclaim. Like people loved this. For the first time in his life, the musical intelligentsia was on Billy Ray's side. Billboard even reviewed the album with the headline, "Billy Ray Deserves Respect." But unfortunately, most country fans did not agree. Trail of Tears peaked at number 125 on the Billboard charts and sold a dismal 125,000 copies.
Oof.
Even so, for the first time since he began peddling his demos 15 years earlier, Billy Ray got the one thing that had always eluded him: respect from Nashville. So, Cal, like, why do you think this album did so poorly?
My best guess is that the type of music listener that glommed onto Achy Breaky Heart had already moved on to whatever else was getting big, the next flavor of the week.
Yeah.
Because that type of person, they don't give a shit about musical integrity or even know how to recognize it when they hear it.
Yeah.
So that's my guess. It's just the world had moved on from Billy Ray. And when you hear Billy Ray is coming out with his 4th studio album, I just don't think anyone gave a fuck.
I think so. I think he still had a dwindling percentage of like the cougar moms that were still into him from Achy Breaky Heart and probably would still buy the album and go to the concert. But like this album is not geared towards them. Like this one you have to actually kind of think about.
Yeah, and I think he had kind of burned his bridges with the country crowd.
Yeah. I mean, like, he was starting to get a little bit more respect from some of the guys, like Waylon Jennings, who like he shat on him after Achy Breaky Heart. He later came around and became friends with Billy Ray. And like, so some of these guys were starting to kind of open their hearts a little bit. But like, I think you kind of nailed it. Like the fans had written him off, and the type of people that would be interested in this type of music either weren't dialed into him or wouldn't admit that they were going to buy a Billy Ray Cyrus record.
Well, and also we're still in pre-internet, or at least pre-widespread internet. It's not like now where someone can say to someone like, "Hey, have you heard Limp Bizkit made a new album and it's actually good?"
Yeah.
That doesn't catch on the way it did back then. You'd be like, whatever.
That's true.
I'm not going to go to the store and seek it out.
That's an excellent point. He still is very much dependent on radio, especially country. Country is, and like was then and still is, very radio driven. So this album didn't get a lot of radio play. Like, so it kind of was dead in the water. Yeah, it's sad. Like, it just, like, he had a critical hit. He finally was making good music, and it just completely backfired on him.
I wonder if he had done this album as his 2nd studio album. If this had been the follow-up to Achy Breaky Heart, will he still had people's attention? Maybe the result would have been different.
I think, I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's actually a really good point. Like, because I think the last, like, it won't be the last, went platinum, definitely not on the strength of In the Heart of a Woman, but I think it went platinum on the basis of just people automatically, like, buying.
Yeah, he's
like,
the next big country thing.
Yeah. So, like, if he had done it then, while he still had people's ears, like, I think you're right. I think, at the very least, critics would have been a lot more wowed, and he would have kept more of that momentum that he had with Some Gave All. So it's a shame that it took him that long to take a risk like this. But of course, it didn't work out, and the next phase of Billy Ray's career is what I call the punching the clock era. Now, during this period, Billy Ray more or less returns to making the sort of mediocre music that kind of straddles the line between rock and country. He's not trying to make artistic songs like on Trail of Tears, but neither is he really trying to replicate the success of Achy Breaky Heart. In short, during this period, Billy Ray seems more or less resigned to his status as an also-ran. For his 1998 album Shot Full of Love, Billy Ray concedes that he did the entire record the way his label wanted him to. He let Mercury Records select the songs, musicians, and producer for him. For the first time in his career, not a single song on this album was written by Billy Ray.
Because this always works.
And so I consider this the real tragedy of Billy Ray's career. Like, for once he breaks out. For once he does something artistic. And because it failed commercially, like, it's almost as if he's, like, apologizing to the record industry.
Yeah, when you put it that way, yeah, it's fine, I'll be good.
It's like,
I'll
okay,
do what you
I
want.
got away with one. I made it my way, but I'm sorry, it didn't sell. You guys are right. It's just like, tell me what to do, tell me what to wear. I'll be your bitch.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. And I'm not saying, like, this album is terrible, but it's basically, like, it's bland and it's predictable, as you would expect if, like, the fucking, suits are designing and engineering the whole thing. So, and I just find this so disappointing in light of the flicker of talent that he showed on Trail of Tears. Like, it'd be like if the Beatles put out Revolver, and then the very next album they just went back to, like, I Want to Hold Your Hand type of stuff. So here is the lead single from Shot Full of Love. It's a song called Under the Hood.
You're right. I don't even have anything to say. That's just bland by the numbers. It reminds me again. We're edging closer and closer to modern country, as I said before, of just pandering lyrics, boring everything.
Yeah, it takes one like dumb metaphor and like stretches an entire song out of it.
And again, I hate to keep bringing up YouTube comments, but if you go down, most of these comments are about their cars. I think they don't get the metaphor. I don't think they get the joke.
No, it's comparing women to cars, because I can't just look at looks.
Holy shit, Billy Ray's pretty smart.
That's like poetic and whatnot. So I want to throw one quote at you, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but this is from his book. He says, that song probably would have been a #1 hit if someone other than me would have recorded it.
This is so weird. Dave Mustaine, again. So this is the same era that they made their Risk album.
Yeah.
Dave said almost the exact same thing about his Risk album, of those songs would have sold if someone else that wasn't Megadeth had made it.
Okay, I've listened to Risk once, and I gotta say,
I don't know. Well, my point though is that this was both 98-ish, 90s. Dude. And something about this era was like across genres, people were kind of shedding the 80s artists, and these artists were like struggling to find a new way to make it with their name that they had already.
It's true. Like Billy Ray like cut his chops in the early 80s playing those Kentucky and West Virginia honky-tonk bars. Like, so he's still like, he can stretch out into other stuff every now and then, but that's what he knows. He knows how to rile up that crowd. but that crowd is getting kind of old and gray by the time like we're talking about here. So it's just like, and he's like, we never talked about this, but like he was already 30 by the time Achy Breaky Heart came out.
Oh, wow.
Like, so like he's in his late 30s when this stuff is rolling around. So it's hard for anyone at that age, like, and we would kind of know, like, to reinvent yourself and appeal to the youths,
man,
when you're that old.
That makes Under the Hood a little more creepy.
Yeah, right. Billy Ray's next album, 2000 Southern Rain, continues the trajectory towards abject mediocrity. One review from AllMusic sums up the album nicely. It calls it, quote, a sturdy collection of average country songs performed by a minor country talent. That's a little bit different from calling him the next Elvis, isn't it?
That's not that far above Billy Ray Cyrus' Big Loser.
I know, that's low key Cyrus Big Loser. And yet the thing I have to say though is it's on point. Like they are average country songs. It's not terrible. It's definitely not the kind of stuff that either of us would listen to by ourselves, but like some of them are okay. So I want to highlight one song from this album. And this is a song called We the People. And I want to talk about it more for the story behind it. You see, this song ended up being used as the theme song for George W. Bush's 2000 presidential campaign. Let's take a listen.
I hated that, Nick.
Me too.
I don't think I've hated one as bad as like when those last Baha Men ones we did.
No, that like, dude, I mean, he bought himself a little bit of credibility with Trail of Tears and he cashed it with that song. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, but then when I learned that it became George W. Bush's theme song, I almost retched.
Ugh.
I'm with you, Cal. I can't begin to describe how much I hate that song and that type of song.
I think everyone who listens to the show knows by now our general belief system. That just hits every single button I have in terms of things that annoy me.
Yeah, like it's just like it's such obvious pandering. Like just can you imagine like someone listening to that and like just taking it at face value, like me, I'm Tim. I'm an auto mechanic from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and yeah, I run the country.
Right. Without me, nothing gets done.
It's me, not the bankers and the defense contractors and the oil companies. I prove it. I'm America. So why did this song become the theme song for George W. Bush? I think it's pretty obvious. That song is just, it feels like it's kind of tailor-made for a political campaign to co-opt.
Oh, yeah. And you already said it. It completely panders to the voter base he was trying to capture.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So he was on a label called Monument Records at the time. They were owned by Sony. And Sony, I think recognizing the song's appeal, marketed this to both the Bush and the Gore campaigns. So George W. Bush ended up accepting it, and Al Gore rejected it in favor of a song called Let the Day Begin by a band called The Call.
I don't think I like that anymore, man. I don't. I wanted to be like, oh, Al Gore, you made the right choice. I don't know if he did.
Dude, between those two songs representing those two campaigns, you get a perfect picture of the 2000 election.
God, I am such a cynical old asshole too, because like I know how this panned out. So then there's this part of me that when I hear these old songs, I like, here's to the beauty of the stars and shit. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, get bent. Nothing's beautiful.
I know. It's just like, I don't know. You know, like, so that song was written in 1989, and it sounds like it like was like already out of date by the time that like that was like, that's like I thought that was like from like the early 80s or something, or, you know, like, I don't know. But I mean, I get why George W. Bush chose Billy Ray's We the People, because like, here's a guy that like his entire economic plan is just tax cuts for the rich, but he wants to like prove that he's for the everyman. Mm-hmm. You know, like no, like my agenda's going to benefit factory workers and farmers and school teachers, you know, and like, obviously like the Republican, you know, white working class voter base, like they'll get jazzed over like a really shitty country song by a guy they half remember from 10 years ago. The Let the Day Begin song, what the fuck was Al Gore thinking? Who is going to vote for Al Gore based on that?
God, man, this is why we lost the culture war. Solely because Al Gore didn't know a rumbling, tumbling good time when he heard it.
You know, like, I was tempted to make some sort of joke about that election being so close that theoretically Billy Ray Cyrus could have swayed it. And
I don't think you're that wrong, man.
Well, let's just keep going, you know, because it was so close and Billy Ray Cyrus ended up siding with W. You know, we had Bush in office when the CIA came out with that memo, Bin Laden determined to attack inside the United States, which George W. Bush tossed aside so he could just clear more brush down in Crawford. And then we had 9/11 happen. And then we had two gigantic wars, you know, one of which like only ended basically yesterday. And hundreds of thousands of people needlessly died because Billy Ray Cyrus wrote We the People.
Look at the destruction you have wrought, Billy Ray.
I hope you're ashamed of yourself, sir. I hope when you have a bubble bath and smoke the Hootie Mac tonight, you think about what you've done. I should note that like Billy Ray himself is actually a lifelong Democrat, and because remember his dad was in the legislature. His dad was like on the Democratic side.
Wow.
So
that's one of the most shocking facts so far of all of this.
Yeah, so like he is working class, like, and this is an age where like, you know, white working class people were sometimes still Democrats.
I know, I so strongly associate nowadays that if you live in the country, you are Republican.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
Well, that's because the Republicans have successfully weaponized abortion and all these cultural issues to distract people from their economic interests.
I would say, even as you mentioned earlier, they also at this point have convinced them against their own economic interests.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we're helping you, and then they don't, and no one notices.
100%. So Billy Ray was like a little bit hesitant to use this or let the Bush campaign use this song. But I think the reason he did was just, you know, he needed all the help he could get at this point when radio is ignoring him. He's not really selling records anymore. So.
Billy Ray's greed led to 9/11. That's the takeaway so far.
Exactly. But if you think that's embarrassing, wait till you get a load of the next phase of Billy Ray's career. For this act, Billy Ray finally attempted to fulfill his promise of using his music to, quote, represent God's light and love. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you Billy Ray, the Christian singer.
I've never seen that little town where you were born. It was long before my time and far away. But as time goes on, I think about you more and more, and wonder what it was like in those days. I wish I could have walked with you. You might have called me friend, but there's no way I could have known you then. But I know you now. I know your name. A lot of awesome things you did and why you came. I didn't know you when you helped that lame man rise up from his bed. I didn't know you when you stood there and called Lazarus from the dead. But I know you now.
I hate Christian rock so much.
Yeah, I mean,
how is that your hook? Like, nothing changes in the piano melody. I know you now. Couldn't you at least have put in like a drum going, boom, boom, you know, something to like, I don't know.
You're distracting. It's all about the glory of God, and it's not about the drum. Don't look at the drummer. Don't look at the drummer. Look at God. Raise your hands up. Don't feel that like tiny like sliver of sexuality you get when something good happens in rock music.
That tiny little bit of doubt that he even exists. Crush it.
I mean, I didn't really have much prepared to say on that song. I think it speaks for itself. Like, it reminds me of that one CCM song we played in the Creed episode, right?
Yeah, and I want to do a Christian rock episode someday, but it's almost hard because, like, what do you say about it? There's so little actual music in the music.
No, it's the music is a vehicle for the lyrics. And that maybe you could argue that that's true in like country and maybe rap more generally, but usually it's at least good music or at least a good hook.
Right. Christian rock seems to just be a piano melody, and that's it.
Yeah, really. You find like the schmaltziest Hallmark commercial piano melody, and then you have a little gimmick with this song, right? It's like, I didn't know you when you were performing all these miracles, but I know you now. Like,
and you haven't done any in my lifetime. I'm not sure why not.
It's like, okay, huh? Yeah, that's so clever, Billy Ray. You weren't born 2,000 years ago. You couldn't know that he did all those things. Maybe you could extrapolate based on that. Like, nobody was around to witness those. Yeah. Nobody documented these in Jesus' time. Okay, sorry. I'm making you think too much. I'll shut my mouth. So that album is called The Other Side. Real quick, last time I'll do this, Cal. I want you to Google the album cover for this one. What do you notice about Billy Ray's head?
It is the only thing in focus. Oh, his mullet's gone.
It's gone. He's chopped off the mullet for this album. Maybe that was for Jesus' sake. I can't confirm that one way or another. But no, this is an end of an era for Billy Ray Cyrus. He no longer has the mullet.
So I was distracted. I thought we were going to point out how it's about his face again. His head is the only thing in focus on this album cover.
No, it's not a very good cover. And like, he's like sitting on like a log or something and trying to look really serious. Like, I'm really in deep prayer here. I need a hit. Please, God, have this album sell. So, no, but this one was released on a small Christian label. And he doesn't really talk about this much in his book, but apparently this album wasn't really very well received by the contemporary Christian community. He writes that some people in the Christian music business, quote, viewed me as an imposter and treated me as such. In a couple of instances, I'd never been treated ruder.
Well, I have two things about that. A, they're Christians, man. Have you ever hung around a bunch of them? most judgmental people out there.
I mean, it's not as though kindness and forgiveness are cornerstones of that faith, is it?
And then number two, dude, you wrote Under the Hood as a hit like 2 albums ago. What do you think they're gonna think?
But probably all they remember is Achy Breaky Heart, and they remember that Billy Ray was still basically a male sex symbol,
right?
You know, like he was the one like. I watched like a concert of his from that era recently where like there's like a big moment where like the women are demanding that he take his jacket off, his denim jacket. And he finally does, and to reveal like even more of the biceps, you know, and like, so that like, they're still thinking that that's who Billy Ray Cyrus is. And as we said in the Creed episode, CCM is a very self-contained ecosystem, and they kind of don't like new people stepping onto their turf. So this album did not sell very well, but by this point, Billy Ray, I think, was kind of used to that.
Yeah, I don't. He's just keeping food in his mouth.
But perhaps one of the reasons Billy Ray's music was in decline during this period is that by the late 90s, he had turned his attention to a new venture: acting. Sure, he had no previous experience or dramatic training, but remember, this is the same man who so thoroughly believed in positivity and his own God-given potential that he once abandoned a promising baseball career in order to become a rock star, even though at the time he didn't know how to play guitar. All right, Cal, you haven't seen any of Billy Ray's acting bits, have you?
No.
Oh my God.
Nope,
Buckle
going
the
in
fuck
blind.
up. So at first, Billy Ray just kind of got like these bit parts in TV shows. He was on The Love Boat. He was on Diagnosis Murder. But then in 2001, he scored a small role in the film Mulholland Drive by legendary director David Lynch. So, Cal, I just showed you a clip of that scene in Mulholland Drive. What'd you think?
Even in those 3 lines, he is not great.
Well, he's playing himself, essentially. He plays a kind of a big, dumb guy who gets caught sleeping with another guy's wife.
It reminds me of in Something About Mary when Brett Favre plays Brett Favre. You know,
Yeah,
though he's reading lines as himself, it's still like he's very aware he's on camera reading lines.
Yeah. And I think like David Lynch is a very idiosyncratic director, and a lot of times his casting choices are more about what he thinks is going to be funny, like in an ironic way, than like who is actually legitimately best for that particular part. So he thinks, oh, this is going to look really weird on screen. Like, so he casts Billy Ray Cyrus. Like, oh, I've got this super weird artsy movie. How about I throw in the guy that did Achy Breaky Heart? And that'll be cool. I honestly think that was like his mentality. And I'm not shitting on David Lynch. I'm a gigantic David Lynch fan, and I highly recommend people watch Mulholland Drive. But that wasn't Billy Ray's first taste of the silver screen. No, Billy Ray Cyrus's feature film debut is a straight-to-video independent flick called Radical Jack.
A man on the run from his past with nowhere to hide.
Sir, are you Jack Reynolds?
But they knew how and where to find him.
Told you people 5 years ago I was through.
I have some information. This is Roland, one of the major arms dealers on the East Coast.
I just want out. If you want out, it's done.
They know how to play the game, no matter who gets in their way. But there's one thing they don't know.
You need to get your ass out of here. I ain't going nowhere.
They don't know Jack.
Dude, that he looks in that trailer like that's what they based Mac and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia off of. That looks like it would be Mac's favorite movie.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no shit.
Dude, so we obviously, you've guessed our age by now. Like, we grew up in the era of like Tim and Eric and like ironic humor.
Yes.
And that movie looks like a fucking goldmine. That trailer comes off like a fake movie trailer from nowadays.
It absolutely is. And like I gotta say, Cal, I have so in this film it's basically like an action movie, and he plays this ex-Navy SEAL who gets convinced by the CIA to go undercover as a bartender in a small town to disrupt an illegal arms deal that's being orchestrated by the U.S. Senator. At least I think that's what the plot is. The film actually like kind of contradicts itself multiple times and just makes no sense and is wildly implausible. And I mean, in the lifespan of this show, I have watched so many bad movies just to do research for these episodes. I watched 2 of Fred Durst's movies. I watched Cool as Ice. Ugh. I watched Space Jam 3 times, which is like, it's a bad movie. I liked it. I didn't like watching it 3 times.
Yeah, that's a lot,
But
man.
like this film, this fucking movie, this is the worst film I have ever watched for this show, and maybe the worst film I have ever watched in general.
Oh,
I know
man.
I said that for Cool as Ice. This is worse than Cool as Ice.
So it's not even like fun bad like The Room?
I watched it with my girlfriend, and we couldn't even finish it the first time. And like, so we just we checked out, we went to bed, and then I realized I had to like at least see how it ended for this show, and the ending was even worse than the first 45 minutes. Like, there's so he stars alongside Dee Dee Pfeiffer, who is Michelle Pfeiffer's younger sister. And let's just say there's room for one actress in the Pfeiffer household. And there's all these like bar fighting scenes. It's obviously ripping off the Patrick Swayze film Roadhouse, and it's set in this stereotypical like Southern type town. Like they all have like weird, like really hacky, awful Southern accents. That's at least the ones that even bother to do an accent.
Right, it's kind of like our Southern accents.
Yeah, or like even worse. Like there's one like sheriff character, like he talks like he from the bayou, and he talks like that the whole film. Like, and like at one point they're like all these bad guys kind of like find a black guy at a grocery store, and they surround him and are like, "We don't like your kind around here."
Oh no.
and then Billy Ray of course comes to save the day, and he pats the nice old black guy on the back after he sends these bad guys.
Sorry, that won't happen until next Wednesday, all right?
But then later I learned, doing research for this film, it's supposed to be set in Vermont.
The home of progressive Senator Bernie Sanders? It can't be.
What the fuck? Hope, Vermont, which I hope to God isn't a real town. God. Yeah, so this film, the bad acting, bad writing, bad directing, bad editing, even the music kind of makes no sense. Like there's this one like car chase scene, and the music is like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, like it's or something that shitty. And it's just beyond bad. But if you want to watch it, like, because it is like funny up to a point on how bad it is, it's on Amazon Prime. You can rent it for $1.
Okay.
So
I have gotten worse entertainment for $1.
And curiously, Billy Ray Cyrus makes no mention of this in his book.
Even he knows. Well, that was a pile of shit.
I mean, think about that. Like, this is his first lead role in a feature-length film. It might be his only role as the lead in a feature, and yet it's so bad that he just wants to completely shelve it.
I have learned though that oftentimes actors like don't realize how bad the film's going to turn out until they see it.
No, this is very true, and that's true of like almost every film that you've seen.
Yeah, because they're expecting like some of this shit that seems weird they can fix in editing and stuff like that, and when they don't, when it turns out it's just as bad as you thought it might be.
Well, in that case, like, he should have at least read the script and realized how bad that is, because that's where most of the problems are. But thankfully for Billy Ray, very few people actually saw Radical Jack. As I said, it went straight to video. It has a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes, 2.4 on IMDb. And, his acting career nevertheless progressed, and he was able to procure a role on the PAX TV show Doc. Now, Cal, do you remember what PAX TV was?
Not even a little bit.
No, it's this was a cable network that was kind of founded in the late 90s.
Oh, see, that's why I was a Farmer 5 child. And for those of you not in the US, that means we had an antenna and it picked up like 5 networks.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because it wasn't because your parents couldn't afford cable.
No, they just were like those anti-TV type. All my dad ever watches is sports, so that was all he needed.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that fact about your life, Cal. And that's weird because I hung out at your house a lot as a kid.
We found other things to do.
That's why we were on Kazaa so much, I guess. So no, but PAX TV was a network that was founded. It was founded by a guy named Bud Paxton, and he wanted to do a TV network that had wholesome, family-friendly content because he thought there was too much violence and sex and swearing on TV. So he wanted to get something really just kind of nice and family-friendly out there. So, as a result, a lot of PAX TV's original programming is not what you'd call good. And this series is kind of emblematic of what they were all about. So in the show Doc, Billy Ray Cyrus stars as a kind-hearted Montana doctor named Clint Cassidy. So Dr. Clint Cassidy, takes a job at a New York City hospital, and he's going to bring his wholesome country values to the big, corrupt, soulless city. All right, so Cal, I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to have you watch a couple of clips of Doc.
All right,
to give you an idea what this is all about.
You and Beverly been getting along good, ain't you?
Yeah, she's the second nicest lady I've ever met.
You like Nate, too?
He's the second nicest man I've ever met.
Ro, what would you think about living with Nate and Beverly instead of me, permanently?
But you said you were going to adopt me.
Yeah, but what if Nate and Beverly adopted you instead?
Don't you want to adopt me?
That's not it at all. I'd love nothing more than to adopt you. That's what makes this so hard. You're the greatest kid I've ever known, Ro, and you deserve the best. And that's having a mom and a dad that love you. And a mom is something I can't never be.
Dude.
All right, so Cal, I just showed you a couple of clips of Doc, and granted, I haven't seen a full episode yet.
I don't think I could sit through one.
Me neither. That's why I didn't really seek it out. Just it's got that really schmaltzy, pseudo inspirational vibe to it.
It is the slowest paced show I've ever seen. That was the longest 3 minutes of my life. It felt like we had been watching that for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I only showed you a little bit, but you saw it does this doom 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 music,
piano the whole time.
And everything is a very heavy-handed, inspirational,
right.
Just believe in Jesus and overcome your obstacles.
I'll just make up it's like a conversation between Doc and a kid right now, making it up.
Yeah.
You're the nicest man I ever met, Doc.
Oh, shucks, Timmy. You don't have to say that.
Well, I like saying stuff like that. It makes me feel good.
And you need to feel good after your mama died, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, Timmy. You just pray on her every night, and she's going to look down from you in heaven. And she's going to see you getting so much better with that lasso.
How's she going to see when her head was smashed by the car right in front of me, Bob?
Because they don't have torn arterial ventricles in heaven, Billy.
Well, that's nice. It's pretty tough, man. I can't imagine that show has fans under the age of 80.
No, this is for your aunt in Topeka, Kansas that always sends you forwards you the inspirational email about the special needs kid on the baseball team or whatever. So Doc, it actually legitimately does have fans. You read some of the YouTube comments, right? People
big
miss
time.
this show. It's not anyone that you or I has ever met or likely will meet, but it ran for 5 seasons.
I think it's the same people who like Garfield and Marmaduke.
Yeah,
they're out there.
100%. The people who think people who have laughed out loud at the family circus probably watch this show. But ultimately, the good Lord would not allow Billy Ray's thespian talents to be confined to an obscure show on a long-forgotten cable network. Indeed, just a couple of years after Doc was put to rest, Billy Ray Cyrus would embark on a venture that would return him to prominence and even revitalize his all-but-extinct music career. All he had to do was sell his soul to Disney and ride the coattails of America's next pop culture icon, his daughter. That's right, folks. I'm talking about Hannah Montana. We're going to talk about that show, its music, and what it did for America's favorite bad music family in the next chapter of the Cyrus Dynasty.
Yeah.
So, Cal, I know this is a tough sell, but I've got to try to get you to watch at least one episode of Hannah Montana.
I totally will. It's funny, I missed the boat on it. I've actually never seen it, despite having 2 stepdaughters about that age.
Yeah.
They were just, I think Kendrick's just a little young to have been into Hannah Montana. She was into like the next gen of Disney shows.
Well, maybe you can see if your 9-year-old stepdaughter likes it. But we'll, because that's the target demographic. But we will talk all about it. Like we're gonna kind of switch gears and talk more about Miley and her early career, how that show affected the entire family and all the fucked up shit going on there. But that is going to be in a little while. So in the meantime, make sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating on those apps. And also, while you're at it, if you're a fan on Facebook, give us a 5-star rating there too. Because we're just as good as your local artisan apple cidery, aren't we? We're just as good as the gourmet popcorn place.
Yeah, think about it. You drink a cider, that's gone in what, like half an hour?
Yeah.
We're giving you an hour a week here.
Yeah.
So we're at least as good as 2 ciders.
And as always, hit us up. We're at polishingturdspodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We love hearing from fans. We just got a really nice letter from Rob in Ireland. Shout out to you, Rob. And yeah, catch us at Chili Mania in September 10th.
Hell yeah. I'm serious.
No,
We're going.
We're going to fucking Chili Mania. Chili Mania, Edgerton, Wisconsin, September 10th. 10 p.m. is when Billy Ray starts. Be there or be square, but also be vaccinated.
Yes.
All right. Good night.
You know, one time I ran into a man that tried to stop me from somewhere I was going.
Yeah?
I cut his little tiny nuts off.
I hate you, Billy Ray.
Here's to the babies that are being born.